Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Learn and Lean In, a podcast series highlighting remarkable individuals contributing to the community through their devoted efforts in nonprofit organizations. My name is Rachel Mesa, and I will be your host for today, and I am thrilled to introduce our next guest, Susan Kramer-Mills. Susan has been a pastor in New Brunswick for several years now and is an avid supporter of the arts and various arts organizations in the city. However, today what we'll be focusing on is her role as the Executive Director of Town Clock Community Development Corporation, or Town Clock CDC, a permanent housing solution for domestic violence survivors and their families. Susan's dedication to providing a safe space for domestic violence survivors is truly commendable, and we are so privileged to have her as our next guest. Thank you, Susan, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So, to start off our conversation today, I wanted to go over more about you and your background. So I was curious as to what kind of ignited your passion for community service and what really compelled you to join your role as the Executive Director of Town Clock.
So I'm a pastor, as you had mentioned before, and I've actually been in New Brunswick since 2000. Yeah, that's how long it's been. Anyway, and as a pastor, our role is to be community-oriented and to help the least of these. That's what every Christian church is meant to do. And so the church began to explore what they wanted to do with their buildings back in 2008. First Reformed Church was already housing men during the rotating shelter during the wintertime, and they did that for 2 weeks. And when we were looking at our facilities and saying, these are enormous buildings, what can we do with them? Because we're worshiping about 70 people, when this originally was built for 1,100 people back in 1812. So a committee was put together, and that committee analyzed and met with community individuals and eventually came up with a crazy idea of taking 2/3 of the building and putting in affordable housing. And then they also went back to an event in their history in 1971 where they were housing a woman who was a survivor of domestic violence and in their sexton's house, which is over here. And her boyfriend broke into the backside of the church and set fire to it. 1971, yeah. And half the pews were destroyed, half the balcony was destroyed, the historic chancel area was destroyed, the stained glass windows were all destroyed. The church rebuilt back in 1971. It did not look like it once did. It looked very different, very much more, I would say, 1960s-ish. But it still sat over 600 people. And so when we were discussing what we were going to do this renovations for, we said, how about housing survivors of domestic violence? Maybe God is calling us to do that. And in that process, we learned how little long-term affordable housing, supportive housing is available for female survivors of domestic violence. And so that's a whole nother story. You probably want to ask questions about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that later, but it's amazing that that your organization had that thought and kind of thought about affordable housing, because that is such an issue.
Yeah, it was really the church. And then from there, in 2010, we said, we have a choice. Now we have to decide if we're going to go forward with this project, then we need to make a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so the church said, okay, and we put together the nonprofit, the 501c3, made the applications and all of that. And that was in 2010. And we chose the name Town Clock Community Development Corporation because First Reformed Church has the town's clock in the steeple.
Oh, wow.
Since 1830s. Since the 1830s. Almost 200 years. Yes, and the city of New Brunswick still to this day maintains the clock.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very creative.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about what kind of Town Clock's mission is and what the long-term objectives are that you kind of
Sure.
see yourself fulfilling?
So Town Clock's main mission is to provide permanent, supportive, affordable housing with wraparound services for survivors of domestic violence and their children. So we've been open since 2016. I just said I'm going to run it like I would a church. So put together a board, have all that type of stuff, and have committees. And we learned as we went along, what's a good nonprofit? What does it do? And how do you run it? And went to seminars, went to trainings, read books. And our long-term goals are this: to be a scalable model for other agencies to provide long-term, affordable, supportive housing for survivors of domestic violence. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's to become an advocate, to be an advocate for homeless survivors of domestic violence. 57% of all homeless women in the United States cite domestic violence as the reason for their homelessness.
Oh, wow.
57% of all homeless women. So that's the majority. So there's a problem here.
Yeah.
So, and then the third part is to create more housing. So we have an opportunity to renovate another building on this site, the education building, which is next door. It's going to cost over $7 million to renovate.
Oh, wow.
But this project was about $4 million, and we made 10 apartments. That was 8 years ago. Now, with the housing prices, with the prices of everything going up, $7.4 million is a normalcy, unfortunately. And we're planning on putting 6 more apartments in the building.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is amazing, though. And I'm sure you'll get it done, but that is...
Eventually.
It requires a lot of work.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So I'm sure, during your time at Town Clock, you've definitely seen your vision come to life in many ways. So I was wondering, what do you consider to be your most significant accomplishment? And are there any specific anecdotes you'd like to share about them?
The wonderful part, being now this far out from when we first started, is that I begin to see what we have done here bearing fruit. Mm-hmm. So this year at our Being Brave fundraising event, we had 3 of our previous residents attend. And I have 2 who are now becoming volunteers as a part of our committees. So they're coming back and saying, we want to help because we know how important this housing was for us. Mm-hmm. This saved our lives. Now we want to give back and help give it to somebody else. So that's, what could be better than that?
There's nothing better.
Yeah. To see somebody return and say, I really want to help you fundraise because I know how important this is.
Yeah, and that's how you really touch the lives of other people,
Yeah.
And I think that's really great.
So that's the most significant thing. I couldn't, to see somebody come back, give them a huge hug and say, hey, now you're on the other side. Now you know why I was spending all my time at meetings and things online,
Mm-hmm. And that's how the work you're doing is meaningful, is
Mm-hmm.
that you're inspiring other people to kind of follow in your footsteps. I think that's so rewarding and fulfilling.
That's true.
So I know that you've been recognized for all of your efforts, which must have been amazing. You got the Purple Ribbon Award. So
I got we got a couple of awards. And I want to say we because it's really not me. It's really the team. If the board and the advisory board and the volunteers, all of us together, the staff, we can't do it without each other. Yeah. To put together a 200 attendee gala is a lot of work. and all of our staff is part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And so those volunteers are immensely important. Without them, we couldn't do it. But the prizes, yeah, this year we were really overwhelmed at how people recognized our work.
Yeah.
Yes, the Purple Ribbon Award, that was for our annual report.
Mm-hmm.
We won that award because they said, this is a really unique and really great production of this of an annual report. But also, more importantly, Middlesex County Regional Chamber of Commerce recognized us as the community organization of the year, and then we received the John J. Heldridge Leadership of Distinction Award. So for our workforce development.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So the fact that the model is housing first is important. So you stabilize somebody with housing, and then we provide also the wraparound services, including workshops and therapeutic counseling and case management, all of that together. We also provide scholarships for the ladies. So that's one of our things that we fundraise for. So they can go back to school. They could go and get a technical training, whatever they need. We help buy uniforms and things like that. So that enables them to go back into the workforce and then stabilize their lives and then go on from here and move out from here and have their own apartment, whether it's subsidized apartment or unsubsidized, and move out. I mean, that's the long-term goal for each woman. So, and to be recognized by the Heldridge Workforce Development was really a great honor. It really was.
That's amazing. So, do you have any plans on how to leverage that and kind of move forward and keep the momentum going?
Well, just keep on doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 fundraisers a year, and those fundraisers are friend raising as well as advocacy raising. Our first is like an art sale, and we have that usually in March. And we sell not only art that was donated to us, but also art that our residents have created. So it's a mutual, art sale. The second one is just an online thing. It's for Mother's Day. It's fundraising to get them gift cards for Mother's Day, but also it's for the scholarship program.
Yeah.
So we raise somewhere around $5,000 to $7,000.
Oh wow!
So annually, which is great.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So and they can apply for that scholarship. We provide all of every new resident gets a laptop or a desktop computer.
Mm-hmm.
That's first of all. Some people we've paid for uniforms for. Others we have paid for driving lessons because they need to learn how to drive in order to get to jobs, things like that, as well as going back to school.
Yeah.
And then the final gala is a really big gala where we honor 4 different entities in the New Brunswick area who have done something to raise awareness for domestic violence. So that's a big event, and I think that it also it's at a level that it raises awareness for people what domestic violence is really about, and that some people don't make it out of the domestic violence relationship either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think
it's important to recognize that too.
That's amazing work. I think that fundraising that much is really hard.
Yes.
And so the fact that you've been able to accomplish that and provide scholarships and kind of help those ladies out of that situation, that's amazing. That's something that is almost unimaginable, and the fact that you guys have been able to do it is so amazing. So I was wondering more about, you've done so much, so what have been the roadblocks in your way?
The biggest challenge is financial.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find grants, even county grants that support this type of programming is difficult because you have to write. Grants take a long time to learn how to write, and I was not a fundraiser when I got into this. I was a pastor. That wasn't in my in my quiver here. So I had to learn how to do that. And I was blessed by a person retiring and calling me up one day and said, I'm yours. How can I help? And I said, well, do you know how to write a grant? She goes, yeah, in fact, I do. I've been writing that grants for years with the government, and so I can help you with that. It's connecting people. That's my biggest challenge. I need people who can help come alongside and help us do things better.
Yeah.
Because, I can't do it all. So, and, I'm ready to recognize. So making those connections are really key. And fundraising, writing grants, connecting me to bigger donors. I don't know much about development and had to learn some things, and I can do it. I always say, put me in front of people, I can talk. It's like preaching. So I can do that. I can always talk. So I've always been good at talking. That's my parents. But knowing what to say and how to make those connections and how do you follow up, that's a lot of work. And so our second challenge is not only financial, it's also staff. Staff is all part-time. So, what do you do with part-time staff? Everybody says, well, Susan, so-and-so, and you should do this, this, and this. And I go, yeah, that would be great if I had another 3 people to hire that I could afford to hire, right? And pay a decent wage, too. So that's the biggest challenge for any nonprofit all over. How to get out of it, fundraise more, connect more, have opportunities like this where the word gets out about our organization. That's really key.
Yeah.
And what we try to do is people reach out to us all the time and say, I want to volunteer. I really want people to come because by coming in, you learn more about what we're doing and you see the challenges and then you share with your constituents what's going on here. So that's really, really important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The thing with nonprofit organizations is there's such a learning curve that comes with it because no one comes into a nonprofit and thinks like this is my goal, I want to raise this much money, because you're always coming into it with kind of this like selfless view that you don't even like think about money. So then when you have all of these like extra variables that come in, it just becomes so much. I know. Right. Which is...
And pastors are trained not to think about money.
Yeah.
They really are. You're not supposed to think about, God isn't money.
Yeah.
It's something complete. Your spiritual endeavors are something completely different. So, yeah, when I was told I had to be a fundraiser, God and I had a conversation. Yeah. But, God said, yeah.
God gave you guidance.
Yeah, exactly. And so you learn. Yeah. And you just go, okay, if that's what you want me to do, I'll do it. Okay, God. I've been blessed with that. Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. So could you talk more about what your initiatives are for the next year and what's on the roadmap?
Well, our 3 fundraisers again. Mm-hmm. The second is we have a really big project. That big building project, the Ed Building Project, is huge. So we have to roll out a capital campaign. How do you raise $7.4 million? Yeah, you have to have plans. So, we're beginning to put together, how do you do a naming opportunities? How do you do a campaign like that? So researching online, finding out how to do that, having to look at big capital campaign grants. Those are, a couple $100,000, $1 million. So how do you put something like that together? Now, this is not my first dog and pony show. I learned some of that when we did the Dina's Dwellings project. Mm-hmm. And we were learning. So we followed along with another developer how to do it. And then we tried it out ourselves by doing the house over here, which is now the Barbara Littman House. And that was in 2020. And we wrote 2 grants and received over $370,000. So that was a good learning. So this next project is the biggie. So that's our goal, to try to raise the money in the next year and a half. And so we can start construction.
Yeah. That sounds really solid, though. You have a plan.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll let you know in about a year and a half.
Yeah. So, going off of that, I was wondering, how could I, as a student, and other students at Rutgers and in the New Brunswick community, how could you see us getting more involved with Town
So
Talk?
there's a lot of different ways.
Mhm.
So first of all, liking us on any of the social media platforms that we're on. I know students probably are not on Facebook anymore. We have a Facebook site. We have an Instagram site. We're on LinkedIn. Yeah, we also have a YouTube channel. So those, if you could look and share them, share whatever we're doing, share with your constituents. That's number one. Number two, join one of our committees. Let me know. We also have, occasionally we have new people moving in, so we have to clean an apartment and set it up.
Mhm.
Or we have, for instance, we have around the holidays, we have 2 days where we're wrapping all the gifts that are going to be given to the residents. If you want to come and wrap presents, come, be an elf for a day. The other opportunities are, you could do a product drive. Do you know how important toilet paper is? It's important. So we have a food and clothing pantry here on site, available to the ladies, and we're out of toilet paper. We need toilet paper desperately. So and that's an ongoing thing, right? We luckily have a company that donates laundry detergent. So we have free laundry detergent. That's beautiful, but we are desperate for any paper products. So something like that, or a group can say, Susan, what do you need? And just contact me, and that would be great. And I can always say, well, we're low on this, and that's always helpful.
Yeah, I feel like things like that are always so overlooked. Like, you don't realize how privileged you are to have like paper products, and I feel like people don't understand really like the full scope of like the power of marketing on social media.
Yes.
And young voices these days are just so loud and so big that like anything you can get makes such a huge impact on the community,
Yeah.
really.
And for the residents that we have, anything, they don't make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very low income that they're getting. Most of them are making less than $20,000 a year, and try to live anywhere on $20,000, and maybe have a child along with that, and pay for childcare. And nothing is free. So any help is a huge help.
Yeah.
So
And that really is true. I feel like the value of a dollar is so crazy.
Yes.
And
yeah.
you can make so much of a difference just by like little donations. Like if every person donated $1, you could get so much money, and
Absolutely.
so much could happen through that.
Yeah. Any little bit helps.
So I wanted to take this time, we're in the end of the podcast. So do you have any final thoughts for us that you would like to share?
I think important is for everybody who's listening to this podcast to recognize how prevalent domestic violence or intimate partner violence is.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens to 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men. And it's underreported all across the board. So be recognized for yourselves, or get trained. What is a healthy relationship? Healthy relationships shouldn't be controlling. Healthy relationships shouldn't hurt. You should not be afraid of your intimate partner. Those are really key facts. That intimate partner should love you for who you are, never put you down, should be lifting you up. And that's important, because it happens very quickly. You go down a rabbit hole and you don't realize in the end. And your friends and family might be, pushed away because of the intimate partner. And I really would hope that your listeners learn and understand that it can happen to anyone, anytime, across the board. It doesn't need to be happening to a homeless woman. It can happen to you and me, and we don't sometimes recognize it until it's too late.
Yeah. That is so true. Thank you so much for coming on to this podcast and
You're
raising
welcome.
awareness.
Thank you for having me.
It was really informative, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, thank you too. If you want to help us out, like us on Facebook, Town Clock Community Development Corporation, Instagram is Town Clock CDC, or LinkedIn is Town Clock Community Development Corporation. We really need your help, and you would really help us get the word out about our organization and domestic violence.